So, I was lucky enough to get invited to a preview hands-on experience with Battlefield 2042 Season 5 ahead of the release. I had a chance to check out the new weapons, the new map, some of the new gadgets, and the updates coming to the Vault assault weapons in this preview session. There's a lot going on in this season, but does it stick the landing, and will it be worth your time? G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're getting our hands on some Battlefield 2042 Season 5 gameplay. So folks, firstly, I do want to say a big thanks to EA for letting me come out and test the new content. This was the first time I've ever been invited to an embargoed capture event like this before, so it was pretty humbling to have such an opportunity, I have to be honest. And to be clear, and in the effort of transparency, this video is not sponsored by EA per se. I was just invited to come out and check out the new content in a preview format. So again, cheers to that. Secondly, you will quickly notice that a lot of the gameplay in today's video is going to feature bots. Unfortunately, being located in Australia, this is going to be an unfortunate reality of these testing environments where there simply aren't as many creators in the region that are participating in these early gameplay tests. It's not the most exciting gameplay, I know, but the point here is testing out the new content and getting a feel for things, and I feel like I was able to do that regardless of the fact. But nonetheless, let's actually talk Season 5 and what's coming. And let's start off with the centerpiece of the new season, the map, aka Reclaimed. I had a chance to play the map on both 64-player Conquest and the Breakthrough game modes, and I've got to be honest folks, this might be one of the best maps Battlefield 2042 has seen yet. I'm not joking about that. The points of interest have a great flow about them, some of which offer a stronger focus on combined arms gameplay, with others really letting infantry have the center stage and juke it out. And each of those points of interest and those control points on the map have pretty unique gameplay elements to them. Some personal favorite areas of mine to play in were the derailed train and the neighboring forest, the warehouse precinct in the center of the map, and the bunker, all of which felt great to play in as infantry, and there was a distinctly different experience at each objective, which made the gameplay on the map as it moved between the objectives feel pretty fresh. It was good to play around. Beyond that though, there was one thing that really impressed me about this map, and it's something that a lot of the other Battlefield 2042 maps haven't quite nailed as of yet, even after their reworks, and even some of the post-release maps fall into this trap as well. And that was the experience of traversing the map between the objectives. A lot of Battlefield 2042 maps, when you try to move from objective to objective, especially if you don't have a vehicle at times, it just feels like you're moving through a lot of dead air, and there's going to be very little combat between those points of interest. For the first time in a long time on Reclaimed, I felt like there was ample cover to organically move to the next objective. The terrain was interesting, and once you got to know the map, you could use it to your advantage to make a play as an infantry player to get to the next battle. Sometimes battles organically happened between objectives, which is something you don't normally see on a lot of the other Battlefield 2042 maps to this day. But don't get me wrong, as a vehicle player as well, there's enough opportunity and enough open territory and longer sight lines for you to play in around as well. It really did feel like a healthy combined arms experience was on offer here, but to me, another factor that really played into how well the map felt to traverse as well was the size of it. You can really feel here that the map almost makes this return to a size that you would come to expect in, say, Battlefield 4, for example. And the smaller size really improves the pace of combat as you move between objective to objective. It didn't really feel like there were as many of these downtimes or dull moments that you would see on some of the larger maps in the game, and the pacing just felt a little tighter. It felt a bit more like I would expect the pacing of a Battlefield game to do so. But what was really interesting about that is that, as I said before, we only played a 64-player Conquest mode during this playtest. So it makes me wonder if this is DICE opting to focus once again on the smaller 64-player sized lobby and building maps around that size of lobby. If that is the case, and if Reclaimed is an example of the results we could expect to see from that change in focus, then I think we're doing wonders here, and it's really an indication that we need to kind of scrap the 128 size player games and return to form with the 64 player games. It really proves that sometimes bigger is not always better, and I would really argue that this map is right up there with Spearhead as far as the quality is concerned, and part of me even suspects it may play even better. But in saying that, I would really need to play the map with other players first to come to that decision, so in due time. But a good start for sure, a pleasant surprise even. But that's not all. We've also got a chance to try out the new weapons that are coming in Season 5, that being the XCE BAR Sniper Rifle, the GEW-46 Assault Rifle, and the BFP-50 Sidearm. There's a couple of weapons here that are going to look pretty similar to the veterans of previous Battlefield games, that being the GEW-46 or the G36C, and the BFP-50 or the Deagle. Starting off with the GEW-46, yeah, damn. This little number is extremely effective. It has the option to take standard ammunition as well as high-powered ammunition, and under both compositions, it felt incredibly reliable and accurate to use. Like, it is a very accurate weapon. And if you can get your crosshair placement right with the weapon and score those headshots, then it's got some serious legs to do just what you want it to do and delete squads at a time. I've got a feeling that this weapon may be a competitor for the assault rifle meta when it releases, but I'm also going to need to do some more testing with the weapon in firing ranges to really work out those exact time to kill stats. If you aren't subscribed yet, hit that button down below so you don't miss that video when it comes. The XCE BAR Sniper Rifle, I gotta admit, also felt pretty tight to use. It can take the standard, high power, and close quarters ammo types, which again is going to beg some more testing from me to really dial in on what setups are going to be king with the weapon. However, the one thing I did notice with the XCE BAR almost right away was how fast the aiming down sights time is on this gun. It's extremely snappy when it comes to ADS time, and that's especially when you compare it against some of the other sniper rifles in the game right now. So I feel like this is going to be the weapon of choice for those who want to quickscope in Battlefield 2042. I managed to get some time rocking a 2x scope with the weapon during the playtest, and yeah, it almost acted like a slug shotgun with more range at that point, and man, it slapped. It's going to be a lot of fun to use, that's for sure. But don't worry folks, we've not forgotten about the BFP-50. The almighty Deagle returns to Battlefield once again, and you would have seen some gameplay throughout the video using this weapon already. Truth be told folks, this may be my new primary sidearm here when it comes out. Out of the gate, the weapon dishes out a skull-crushing 75 damage based on some early testing, and if you manage to crack a dude in the head who's unfortunate enough to be on the receiving end of this gun, it's a one-way ticket straight to the spawn screen in one shot. It is well and truly a proper hand cannon that feels very, very responsive and rewarding to use. And I feel like we're going to see some pretty nutty clips from people using this sidearm when it launches. It can also take the CQC ammo type, which does reduce its damage payload slightly to amp up the rate of fire, which makes the weapon a little bit more forgiving if your aim's a bit sloppier. But the base payload here has a lot going for it and is going to be really hard to give up if you can crack your shots. A lot of people, myself included, are going to have a lot of fun with this pistol here. There's also some new grenades in the mix, as well as the RPG-7 launcher to complement the M5 recoilless, which I'm sure many are going to welcome with open arms. Battlefield 2042 has felt incredibly lackluster when it comes to its launch arsenal for dumbfires, so I'm very happy to see the good old classic RPG make a return. It doesn't really behave how you would expect an RPG-7 to handle though, at least when you compare it to previous Battlefield games. The muzzle velocity here, for example, feels incredibly fast, and that's not something you'd expect to see on an RPG from those previous Battlefield games. But I do want to do some testing to see how the RPG stacks up against the recoilless when the season launches, to see if it's actually worth using statistically in the grand scheme of things. We've also got the mini, spring, and AT grenades coming to the game in this update. I only really got some time with the AT grenades in the playtest, which are definitely going to serve as a good addition to any AT loadout that you have in your arsenal. Vehicle players, you're going to need to keep an eye out for these things because they do pack a very, very good hit. But despite all this, folks, I must admit, one of the things I was most looking forward to Season 5 was the efforts to improve the integration of Vault weapons to the game. I've always held the opinions that the Vault weapons in Battlefield 2042 have been pretty lazy additions. The weapons have been haphazardly integrated into the main game from the Portal experience in an attempt to really, quite simply, flesh out the game's still tiny weapon arsenal by comparison to previous Battlefield games. Given that the Vault weapons often featured little to no progression and almost universally felt underwhelming when compared against their base game counterparts, yeah, they really did feel like lazy attempts to artificially expand out the game's weapon offering. offering? Well, thankfully, Season 5 attempts to fix that in the assault rifle vault weapon category, with balancing changes, 2042 attachment integration, and camo selections coming to those weapons. And I've got to say, the weapons and the changes here feel incredible. I gave the M16A4, the A91, and the MTAR some really solid time in the playtest, and I was genuinely surprised with just how different, but in a good way, the weapons felt. The MTAR and the A91 in particular surprised me with just how much better they felt. It was night and day by comparison to what's out there on the live server currently, especially after I started throwing on board some of the new Battlefield 2042 attachments on those weapons. And on top of that, the M16A4, while it was already probably one of the more solid vault weapons to come to the game, felt even better, more responsive, more controllable, all of the above. It's gonna be another contender for the top AR in the meta. So given that this is the kind of treatment vault weapons across the board are expected to get as time goes on, I'm looking forward to seeing what DICE does for the rest of the vault weapons across other categories in the game, because this is a very good start, it has to be said. Overall, folks, I'm actually genuinely surprised yet impressed with what Battlefield 2042 Season 5 is offering. People who have followed my channel for a long time know that I have not been friendly and not been kind on this game. I've always viewed that it's been a pretty significant failure to the Battlefield franchise and everything it stands for, and while previous seasons have certainly been steps in the right direction, I kind of feel like Season 5 is a leap in the right direction. It really does feel extremely good to play, at least on the surface, with the limited amount of time that I had with it. And I'm hoping that translates to the live game when you all get a chance to play it on June 7th. But folks, with all of that said, that is going to wrap up today's video covering my preview experience of Battlefield 2042 Season 5. If you enjoyed today's video, firstly, be sure to backhand the ever-loving smackaroonie out of that like button, as it does go a long way to supporting the channel. And also subscribe, because we're going to be doing a lot of Battlefield 2042 content when the season drops. Also, be sure to check out my Twitch channel in the description down below and our Discord server. Come hang out with the community. We do have a very stellar community over there as well. But folks, once again, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.